All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Holy cow, do I have a lot of stuff to get to. So in just a second, I have a challenge for everyone in MAGA. Let's see if any of them take me up on it. I doubt it, but it's worth a shot, so we'll dive into that. Also, we'll be discussing Trump's tariff insanity and how it's tanking the stock market and the economy more broadly. Really ugly, bro. It is getting really, really ugly. Then we'll talk about Gavin Newsom. It's about time we had a conversation about Gavin Newsom. He launched his podcast, and literally every show, he's talking to some far right-wing idiot. And it'd be fine if he went into that with the mindset of, I'm going to debate these people, I'm going to expose these people, I'm going to show how they're wrong. But he's not doing that. He's playing patty cakes. So I have a lot to say about that. Then we'll get to Trump hawking Teslas as the country implodes. He turned the driveway of the White House into a Tesla dealership. We'll talk about Elon nearly crying on TV as his business empire collapses around him. CNN obliterated a lying MAGA scoundrel to his face. Bernie is now shattering records at these rock star rallies that he's doing. He's just packing them to the brim, and then he's got overflow rooms and overflow to the overflow rooms. And then also, I could not get through today's show without doing this, but we got another awesome Bill Burr clip. He cannot stop roasting Elon Musk, and I'm enjoying that thoroughly. So we'll talk about all that and more. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. Remember, guys, this is actual independent media. This is real grassroots media. You guys fund this show from the ground up. You guys tip on Patreon. That's how we make most of the money for this show. You also sign up on Substack for Crystal, Kyle, and friends. Never had a conversation with an advertiser, never done an ad read, never talked to a corporation, never talked to a billionaire or anything like that. And again, I'm deeply thankful you guys have made it possible for us to do that. Not many people in this space can do that. So you will never see me do an ad read, and that's why. So please consider supporting the show if you haven't yet. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So let's start with this. As we all know, Mahmoud Khalil is a Columbia college student, and he was one of the leaders of the pro-Palestine protests on college campuses the other year, right? So at Columbia, they looked at the genocide that was being committed in Gaza with U.S. money and U.S. weapons. And these kids who have a conscience and have some basic morality were like, genocide is bad, so I'd like this to stop. I'm going to protest. There was also an angle at a lot of these colleges. I don't know if it was particularly the case for Columbia, but at a lot of these colleges and universities, there was money being taken from the from Israel going to these colleges. And they said, hey, man, you got to stop taking that money. There's blood on your hands if you take that money, right? And so this guy was a leader in those protests. Well, guess what just happened? Trump came through on his promise on the campaign trail when he said, we're going to deport pro-Palestine protesters. But this actually goes even above and beyond what one would think, because this guy was a legal permanent resident. He had a green card. So this is basically like a pubes hair length short of just rounding up an American citizen, detaining them illegally, and like a native-born American citizen, and then trying to send them somewhere. Because this guy, this is not supposed to be in the cards for something like this. This isn't something like, for example, temporary protected status, where the president has the authority to sort of change the rules a little bit based on his discretion. No, this guy has a green card. He's a legal permanent resident. And they said, we don't think you have the right to free speech. We disagree with your politics. So, to make it a little more clear for you, here's an admission from the White House after they arrested this guy. Now, by the way, I should point out, they said, he's being sent to Elizabeth, New Jersey, to an ICE facility. Well, his 8-month pregnant wife went there to check on him. He wasn't there. They sent him all the way to Louisiana. And again, what are they going to do? Are you going to deport him back to Syria in the middle of a fucking war zone where we have basically the government is now run by Al-Qaeda and they're massacring Christians? Is that what you're going to do? All because he had the nerve to criticize Israel, which, by the way, is morally correct and righteous in this moment? Listen to this. Indeed, a White House official told the Free Press that the basis for targeting Khalil is being used as a blueprint for investigations against other students. So in other words, they're not done. They're not done taking away people's free speech rights. Khalil is a threat to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States, said the official, noting that this calculation was the driving force behind the arrest. The allegation here is not that he was breaking the law, said the official. Let me repeat that. The allegation here is not that he is breaking the law, but you arrested him, and you detained him, and you're planning on deporting him. So how do those things mesh? How do those things work? They don't. They don't. This is a war on the First Amendment, a war on the Constitution. It's this administration saying, we just flat out don't believe in freedom of speech and freedom to protest, probably also freedom of religion. All of these things are now under attack. They're under attack. This is a damning admission. Okay, so I want to illustrate my point here by showing you something. Here's Ben Shapiro when he talks about DEI versus when he talks about Zionism. Okay, listen to the difference in his language when he's concerned with free speech and when he's not at all. Here we go.
Now, we've been seeing these massive marches all over the United States in favor of Hamas. If that doesn't scare the hell out of Jews, I'm not sure exactly what will. These
Total lie. Total lie. They are pro-Palestine protests, not pro-Hamas protests. They're protests against the Israeli genocide.
Campuses, which are supposed places of safety and openness and diversity. Well, when it comes to Jewish students feeling, just a little threatened by people who are now defending mass murder of Jews, and then, of course, there's nothing to be done. Are these people who are marching in favor of Hamas that you would want working for your company? On campuses across the nation, Jews have been surrounded. Jews are being threatened all over the world, but we got to make sure that the people who join the threats, those are the people who are protected. If they are not citizens and they support Hamas, they should be deported. These folks don't think like you. They don't think like you. In the United Kingdom, Jewish students are now afraid to go to class. I know. You are in your dorm and you're ensconced there and you feel so comfortable with all your friends who tell you that you're just a great person and all your beliefs are exactly right. The last thing you want is somebody invading your campus and saying things that you disagree with, because that's just tyrannical and awful. You shouldn't have to feel like you're wrong ever. You should always feel like you're right. Well, toughen up, sweetheart. Bottom line is that it's time for you to learn that there are lots of differing opinions. The discussion is good for you. It makes your views stronger. It makes your views more durable. It is that exchange of ideas that actually makes an intellectual community worth having. If you're not willing to engage in that intellectual community, you're in the wrong place. If you want a safe space, we can find a padded cell for you somewhere. If you want life to just be a giant teddy bear, go back to being a child. But if you want to be an adult in the United States of America, you're going to have to deal with the fact that there are people who disagree, and that's a good thing to discuss. There are only one group of people that want safe spaces so that they never have to hear from anybody of a different ideology or political persuasion. Those people are called fascists. Okay, you've got a bunch of fascists, damn fascists on this campus, who are trying to shut down political debate and trying to cloister themselves in this little cocoon of stupidity so they don't have to debate anyone or think about issues outside their kin so that they can feel comfortable. Guess what? Life isn't about feeling comfortable. Life is about bettering yourself. Get off your ass, you stupid pansies.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
So I want to give credit here. I don't know if this video was originally done by Turncoat Don, but it appears like he tweeted it. So shout out to Turncoat Don or Gen X Girl 1994. I don't know who made it, but that video was awesome. And what it demonstrates is something very simple. When it comes to black issues, trans issues, issues around immigration, all of a sudden, free speech. I'm allowed to say BLM is horrible and BLM is a scam. I'm allowed to stand up and fight these people. Oh, you want your safe space? You want your safe space to hide from the truth? Fuck your safe space. We believe in free speech. But suddenly, when it comes to criticizing Israel, when it comes to protesting Israel, I'm a little snowflake baby and I need a safe space and I don't want you to... And you should be arrested. Arrest him. Detain him. Deport him. Forget the First Amendment. Forget free speech. We love safe spaces. We love safe spaces. Do you see how transparent this is, bro? Do you see how transparent this is? So I have a challenge for MAGA. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. I need you to admit it. I need you to come out and tell the truth. What's the truth? As Mark Ames points out, all the Trump supporters who sanctimoniously claimed MAGA is pro-free speech and anti-censorship really meant they wanted Trump to destroy the people and the ideas that they hate. That's the principle here. It's more widely held than Americans like to admit. So I need you, if you're in MAGA, here's the challenge to you, here's the message for you. You need to come out and say that. You need to admit, yeah, we never really cared about free speech. It was not about free speech. We were using free speech as the veneer of seriousness for what we really wanted, which was, hey, when we criticize immigrants, when we criticize trans people, when we criticize black people, when we say things that are politically incorrect, we don't want anybody to be able to criticize us back. And the evidence we don't believe in this principle at all is very simple. We're all fucking cheering as they locked up Mahmoud Khalil for something that the White House admits is not a crime. They say it's not a crime. So then what does it boil down to? He was critical of Israel. They lie and say he was pro-Hamas. There is zero evidence he was pro-Hamas. Zero. But by the way, let's go a step further. Even if he was genuinely and legitimately pro-Hamas, that is also called freedom of speech. Oh, but they're terrorists, so you can't allow that kind of speech. Virtually the entire political class in America cheerleads Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the biggest terrorist in the world. He has the blood of over 100,000 Palestinians directly on his hands. They have carpet-bombed innocent men, women, and children. They are starving all of Gaza. They are sniping kids in the head. And it's just another day that ends in Y when somebody who's a U.S. politician comes out and says, I agree with Benjamin Netanyahu. We should send him more arms and more money. So if we're going to say it's illegal to voice support for terrorists, well then 90%, 95% of Congress would have to be immediately arrested because they all cheerlead Benjamin Netanyahu and they arm and fund Benjamin Netanyahu. So, like I said, you go a step further. Because if you truly believe in free speech, even if this guy was legitimately pro-Hamas, that's still protected speech. That's still protected speech. So, as you can see here, Trump also came out and commented on this. This is wild, bro. This is wild. Following my previously signed executive orders, ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. In other words, we are obliterating the First Amendment. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity. McCarthy's rolling over in his grave here in this, man. He's throwing a party down there. And the Trump administration will not tolerate it. Many are not students. They are paid agitators. Total lie, zero evidence of that whatsoever. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. If you support terrorism, including the slaughter of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you are not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. Thank you. Let me explain something to you. Trump says, if you support terrorism, you should be deported. Okay, hop on the plane, bitch. You bloated, beefy-ass bitch. We have videos of Trump saying openly that we should take out the families of terrorists. The families of terrorists. They say they don't care. Don't kid yourself. We should take out their families. This is what he said. Never mind the fact he's actually done terrorist attacks, increasing the drone war 432% and killing countless innocent people, dropping the Moab on Afghanistan, stealing the oil from Syria. You are a terrorist. Not only is Trump a terrorist sympathizer because he loves Benjamin Netanyahu and sends him money and weapons every day, he is a terrorist. His first raid as president that he approved killed a young American girl, wildly in violation of the Constitution and international law. If you're a terrorist, we're going to deport you. Okay, like I said, hop on the ICE plane, bitch. Throw the handcuffs on yourself. Astonishing. But again, the takeaway is clear. They don't care about freedom of speech. The White House came out and said the following. Shalom, Mahmoud. ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. They literally said, Shalom, Mahmoud. So trying to mock him and taunt him. So I like what Michael Tracy said here. He says, this completely predictable assault on free speech would be much easier to take if we hadn't just gone through an entire 2024 campaign in which dopey podcasters and RFK acolytes adamantly argued that restoration of Republican executive power was necessary to restore free speech. More. He says the Republican Party has been on a ruthless, censorial rampage since October 2023, and yet it became an article of faith in dopey anti-establishment podcast world that installing a new Republican administration would triumphantly restore free speech in America. Impossibly stupid. So let me reiterate my challenge, and this is super important, and I want people out there who are MAGA to actually take me up on it. Be fucking honest. Tell the truth. Look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm just going to lay it out there and I'm going to say what's actually going on in our minds and I'm going to say what our actual plan was. We never believed in free speech. You're right, Kyle. We never believed in free speech. We used it. We cynically used it, pretended like it was a principle we held. But really it was just about, hey, dog, if I say something bad about trans people or immigrants or black people or whatever, shut the fuck up and don't criticize me. And again, the true test of if you believe in free speech or not is when your enemy says something that they're in trouble for, right? That's the true test. So now I like to think we've actually passed that test. There are times that you've had these massive protests to say, we don't want Ann Coulter to speak at this college or university. We don't want Ben Shapiro, etc. And I came out and said, look, I despise these people. I hate these people. I'd love to debate these people. I think it'd be better if there was a counter voice on stage. But at the same time, hey, they have every right to get up there and talk. And I don't think we should be saying, shut them down completely, right? So I've passed that test. None of these people have passed that test. As they virtue signal like they were the most pure and the most pro-free speech in the country, what did they do? They ended up backing a president who has the single worst record on free speech issues in modern American history. Everybody knows that now. It's crystal clear now. He's deporting people for supporting Palestine, for criticizing a literal fucking genocide that we armed and funded. And by the way, it's not like well, geez, this is the first time that Trump has shown he's actually not pro-free speech. This is wrong. We know he called to terminate all rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution over his election laws. He literally said terminate the Constitution over his election laws. He tried to invoke the Insurrection Act over the George Floyd protesters. He wanted to deploy U.S. troops in our own streets. He didn't pardon Assange. He didn't pardon Snowden. He didn't pardon Daniel Hale. If he believed in free speech, he absolutely would have done that. He arrested and charged 6 journalists with felony rioting for doing their jobs. He gag-ordered the EPA in his first term because the EPA was telling the truth on climate change, and he disagrees with the truth on climate change. He wants to deport pro-Palestine protesters, as he's doing right now, and he's about to ramp up. He called for jailing journalists who reported on the Supreme Court abortion ruling. He says he wants to open up the libel laws to sue more journalists. Before he was president, he sued Bill Maher for $5 million over a fucking joke. He sued CNN for $475 million because they called his election denialism the big lie. He said he wants to punish flag burning with a year in jail. We know that's a free speech issue because the Supreme Court literally laid that out in a landmark ruling. He threatens to de-license news outlets that criticize him all the fucking time. He just sued Simon & Schuster, the book company, for a Bob Woodward book that quoted him, and he didn't like the quote. He sued CBS for how it edited a Kamala interview, and of course he sued Ann Selzer for a poll he didn't fucking like. He has never, ever, ever supported free speech. And my challenge to the right, my challenge to MAGA, is you need to come out and admit it. And you need to say, hey, you know what? Mark Ames is correct. Because what did Mark Ames say? All the Trump supporters who sanctimoniously claimed MAGA is pro-free speech and anti-censorship really meant they wanted Trump to destroy the people and ideas they hate. That's the principle here. And it's more widely held than most Americans like to admit. Admit it, that's what's at the core of Trumpism. Admit it, you were never principled, you never cared about free speech. Look, I can deal with an honest disagreement. If you say, yes, I'm authoritarian. Yes, I hate free speech. Yes, we use it as a tool. We never really believed in it. Okay, we're getting somewhere. You're being honest. What I can't abide is the fucking pathetic, slimy, Weasley virtue signaling where you act like, hey, dog, we're all about the First Amendment. We're all about the Constitution. But then all of your actions contradict that. That's what I can't take. So if you're in MAGA, leave the comment below. Share this video with people you know. And say, hey, will you admit it? Will you admit it? Because if you actually supported free speech, you would be the first ones out there defending Mahmoud Khalil. The first fucking ones out there. You'd be screaming about this from the rooftops, right? Imagine a reverse scenario where some Republican protester was arrested simply because of their free speech, simply because the Democratic administration didn't agree with their position on the issue. What would the fucking reaction be? What would it be? But here we have a clear-cut case of that. And all you see are lies, deflections, obfuscations, double standards, a pathetic lack of logic and consistency. So yes, I want you to finally come out and admit it and tell the truth. You never fucking cared about free speech. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.